Hello, my friends, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah Babbins, and this is a special episode. I know it's been like probably 4 months or 5 months. To all of you that are refreshing the feed, I am sorry. I had some fun time away, and more on that later, and there'll be more episodes coming out before the end of the year, I promise. But I wanted to do a very special episode because this Friday, tomorrow, Ben and I's Penn and Teller Fool Us, our second Penn and Teller Fool Us, is coming out. So I wanted to do a podcast exclusive and share some behind the scenes so that A, you can hear a little bit more about what it was like and what shooting was like the second time, because it was very different than the way that we did it the first time. And number two, maybe you can get some information and inspiration to either apply for next season, or if there's another show, just get some feeling about what's going on behind the scenes to maybe encourage you to do this sort of thing. So first of all, what was different? Well, two main aspects were different. The first is that I spent a lot of this year traveling, which means that we did not spend a ton of time, rehearsing and going through lines and doing the trick a million times. Obviously, we practiced it a lot, but it wasn't the same as the first time. And also, we only found out that we were going to be on the show, I would say about 30 days before we flew to Vegas. So it didn't leave us with as much time as we did the first time around, and things were a little bit more of a mad scramble. But the second biggest difference for this one was that we were shooting for a live audience. Last year, when we did Fool Us with our watermelon trick, there was no live audience. It was still COVID times. There were screens. So we did it for Penn and Teller, but there was no live audience. This time, things were a little bit different because there was a live audience. So I wanted to share with you 3 pieces of behind the scenes, and I wanted to separate it into 3 different parts. One is getting on the show, how we got back on the show a second time. Number 2 is the week of, what the actual week of flying to Vegas and things like that was like, and some really important behind the scenes and advice for you. And then number 3 is day of, some of the things that went horribly wrong or horribly right on the day of shooting. So first, I want to talk about getting on the show. We were actually putting together a trick for a different TV show, and it did not work out with that show. But we realized, hey, this is a trick with 2 photographs of 2 people. Maybe this would be a really good trick for Fool Us. And we sent it in, and we heard back maybe a week or 2 weeks later. They said something along the lines of, that they like it, but they don't know yet, and we should have a meeting with Mike Close. After our meeting with Mike, he made a couple of recommendations, and we made a couple of recommendations, and we added something spicy to the trick. We added some fire, and they loved it, and they said, yes, you are on. That was way different than the first time around, because the first time around, we submitted 3 tricks, then they liked us, but none of the tricks, and we submitted another, and they still liked us, but none of the tricks. And then finally, we arrived at a watermelon trick. And even still, the first time around, we went back and forth with them for the script for weeks before they confirmed that we were on. For this time, we sent them the script. They underlined one thing, we changed it, and it was basically ready to go. So that was really interesting, and also, a nice boost in our confidence that we know how to put this kind of magic together. So that was the first bit. That was about getting on. It was a ton of fun. And we were so, it's so much fun to put together a specific project for television, for anything. And it's even more fun to do this kind of thing with your friend or with your business partner. And, Ben and I had a ton of fun putting this trick together. And I cannot recommend enough being like a duo, even for just one TV spot, because you get to bounce ideas off each other. You get to have fun with each other. You get to share what works. And I feel like the artistic aspect of making magic really comes out when you and somebody are doing it together, because you have to have compromise, you have to share ideas, you have to speak all of it out loud, versus sometimes when you're working on your magic alone, which is just like, you and a notepad, or you and a notes app, or you talking to yourself in a room, and you don't feel all of the artistic decisions being made. So getting on the show, it was a ton of fun, and we basically took a trick that we were submitting to another show, and we just said, hey, who might like this? Penn and Teller's Fool Us. And we sent it, and then we got on. So that was a little bit of information about how we got on. Now I want to talk about the week of, because we made a huge mistake. And the huge mistake is that we were spending that week at Magic Live, which is an amazing magic convention that is hosted in Las Vegas. And it is such a great convention, but my head and Ben's head were elsewhere. And it was really a bummer because we did not get the extra day behind rehearsal time to go over the trick over and over and over again before we shot. But also, we didn't get to enjoy the convention that much because the best parts of conventions are staying up late till 4 a.m. in the morning and jamming with magicians. But we were trying to be responsible and we were going to sleep at like 10 or 11, and it was just a mad scramble. We booked it so tightly that we even missed the last day of the magic convention to shoot our package. They're like, "Hi, I'm Ben, I'm Jonah." And that was just straight mayhem. So if I can give you one lesson to take from this, which is have your head clear when you are shooting TV. Do not spend the week before at a magic convention because honestly, like I said, we didn't get the best of shooting the show in the sense of, we didn't get to spend the 3 or 4 or 5 days before we shot rehearsing and going over. But also, we didn't get to enjoy what is probably one of now my favorite conventions of all time. But again, my head was elsewhere. I wasn't jamming. I wasn't thinking of anything aside from the one trick that I was doing and really did not get the most out of one of my favorite things, which is a magic convention. So the second bit, about the week of, the tip about the week of is that the week that you're shooting something or doing something for the very first time as an artist, as a performer, is sacred. So please do not give that time to something else if you don't have to. Please be very, very tight about the time that is before you shoot something really important, because that was probably my biggest regret of this entire thing, was not giving the week to me and to Ben to just sort of enjoy it. Now, day of. I'm going to tell another quick story about last year's day of, which is that last year on the day of shooting, there's a rehearsal shoot and then there's the actual shoot. So last year in the rehearsal shoot, the trick didn't work. When we were doing the trick of the watermelon, we pulled the ribbon, it broke, and then all of a sudden we got a phone call and Mike Close was on the line and he told us, I was panicking because the trick didn't work in the rehearsal, and Mike Close was like, "Oh, maybe you should hold it like this and not like that." And I was like, "Oh, he's awfully calm about this not working." And then we shot and everything went perfect. This year, we thought that the rehearsal was great. We did it. We did all the moves. We did the whole trick. And then as we start leaving, now the producers run out. And this is a trick that has 2 photographs. And the producer said, because of the color of the photographs that you chose, we cannot see them on camera. They're not showing up on camera. And that was wild because we printed a couple dozen of these. We got markers, we got everything to sort of work perfectly with this color and with this type of photo. And literally 3 hours before we were shooting in front of hundreds of people, but also Penn and Teller, and then to be aired for millions of people, they told us, well, the photos that you're using just don't work. And then we looked at all of the printing stores that were open at that time, because it was already 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., and they were all closed. So now all of a sudden we needed a different image. We needed them printed, and we needed to do any of the secret arts and crafts things done all before we shot in like 2 hours. So first I had to call our amazing team member who lives in the Philippines, who's on the Toronto Magic Company team, and he is our graphics and video guy. And I had to say, "Hey, I need you to change the background color of this image to this or to this." So he was sending me options. I was forwarding that to the producers who were, backstage dealing with other stuff, and they were saying, "No, not that color, but that color." So first, we had to get the colors approved. Then they said, "Nope, there are no print shops open, but, Penn and Teller in their arts and crafts room or whatever, they have some printers." So they were coming out and printing, okay, here it is on 12-point thickness paper, and here it is on 14-point thickness paper. And They were bringing us options. And then after that, Ben's still backstage in their studio. Ben had to do arts and crafts to cut these pictures out and make for this trick to be ready. And then as soon as we were done, we basically went from cutting these pictures so they were the right size to going out on stage and shooting this thing. So that was a mad scramble the day of shooting. That being said, it was such a blast to shoot for Penn and Teller. They were super fun, super warm. It was great to be back on a second time. This time after the shoot, they came backstage and we got to chat a little bit about the trick. We had a very nice time. We took a photo together. They're such good guys. What they do and what the whole entire team does to pull this thing off was absolutely 100% amazing. And we had a blast as usual. So 3 little notes for you before we go away. Note number 1 is tomorrow, Friday, November 10th. Friday, November 10th. Tomorrow, our Penn and Teller Fool Us airs on the CW network. I hope that you check it out. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be fun. You're going to enjoy it. And we tried to be extra silly. That is number 1. Number 2, if I can encourage you to submit to that show, if it comes back for 11th season, or to any other show out there, I highly recommend that you do it because it is a ton of fun and a great creative experiment for your magic. It's nice to have a deadline. It's nice to have a project. It's nice to have limitations to work within. So it's just an amazing experiment. And then number 3, is I promise you that more episodes are coming your way. I know it's been a little while, but I've got some great interviews lined up that you are going to love. Enjoy the next episode of Penn and Teller's Fool Us airing tomorrow, Friday the 10th. You're going to see me. You're going to see Ben Train. You're going to see some awesome other characters a part of the show. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for listening to this very special episode, and I will see you maybe next Thursday. See you soon.